Good morning, Mr. Mulva.
Good morning.
Dr. Tom Borelli, Portfolio Manager of the Free Enterprise Action Fund and Director of the Free Enterprise Project at National Center of Public Policy Research. I have a question for you and about the board nominations with respect to your views on cap and trade. Now, so the rest of the shareholders understand what cap and trade is about. The goal of cap and trade is actually to reduce the consumption of fossil fuels. Isn't that right?
Well, cap and trade is to adjust downward greenhouse gas emissions.
Right, and you do that by reducing fossil fuels, which you just articulately presented as what your business is. So, from my perspective, and you're also part of a lobbying group that is lobbying for cap and trade. So if you just sit back and you're looking at this and you say, you have a company whose products are fossil fuels, you're lobbying to reduce their consumption and therefore lead to lower profits and lower growth. That's kind of a bizarre kind of business strategy, just sitting afar because you sell fossil fuels and you're lobbying to limit their use in the United States. So that's kind of my general comment. And, I'm not the only one who's concerned about fossil fuels. It turns out that one of your largest shareholders, that is Warren Buffett, is not a fan of cap and trade. And Charlie Munger, his number 2 person at Berkshire Hathaway, said it's almost demented to pass cap and trade at this point. So, again, employees, shareholders, please pay attention because we've seen CEOs make big mistakes with risk management. We've seen it with the financial institutions. It's time for shareholders to wake up and ask some pointed questions. Now, here's my question. If cap and trade passes in the United States, how does this affect you versus your competitors being Exxon and Chevron? Are you going to be at a competitive disadvantage if cap and trade passes?
Well, first, with respect to cap and trade, our company has taken a proactive approach to have a seat at the table to discuss what is the approach of whether it's regulations or it's legislation that will have quite an impact on our company and our industry. So our participation is not to get into the debate of climate change or whether it should be a carbon tax or it should be cap and trade. Our whole approach is to participate. By not participating, we don't think we're represented. So our whole approach is to be represented and to participate. Because our view is if we don't participate, we may end up with rules or legislation that's less favorable to our company and to our industry. So that's what we've done. Now, with respect to whether it's a carbon tax or it's cap and trade, the result is going to be an increased cost for energy. Now, your question is, do we see that that's going to be an advantage? Are we going to be disadvantaged or advantaged vis-a-vis our competition?
Correct.
Vis-a-vis whatever is put in place? Well, the devil's in the details of what ultimately is put in place in forms of rules, regulations, or legislation. But I think a lot has to do with the quality of our assets and use of our technology to respond to that. So I think it's premature for me to say that we think we're either advantaged or disadvantaged at this point in time, not knowing for sure exactly what's going to...
Excuse me, Mr. Mulva. The way I understand it, and I've talked to a lot of people in the energy space, and a lot of them are frankly really puzzled at your support of cap and trade. Despite your spin, at the end of the day, you're lobbying to increase the cost of your products and decrease demand. The boys and girls in Dallas are laughing at you, quite frankly. Okay, so let's get this straight. Now, when it comes to your footprint, everybody knows you can look at the maps. Conoco has a much bigger carbon footprint in the United States and North America than your competitors do. So if they price carbon at $10 a ton, $20 a ton, that's going to preferentially harm your business and our share price. Isn't that true? You have a bigger carbon footprint in the United States downstream and upstream than your competitors.
Well, we have a large carbon footprint because of the way the company has been formed, which is primarily in North America, is integrated both upstream and downstream.
Okay, so now you're agreeing with me that you have a bigger carbon footprint in the United States than your competitors, and if it's at $10 a ton, $20 a ton, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Okay, so shareholders, let's translate what's going on here. We have a chairman who's lobbying to increase the price of his product to have a competitive disadvantage compared to his shareholders. You know what that means? That means you are selling all of us down the river And from an investor's perspective and for a hedge fund perspective, you know what this means? This means go long Exxon and short ConocoPhillips. Does anybody wonder why Warren Buffett is selling these shares fast as he can? Again, you have a large carbon footprint in the United States. You're lobbying for higher carbon prices. I am frankly outraged. Listen, you're a nice man, and I want to make you smile. It has nothing to do with that at all. This is nothing personal. Let's see the smile. The point is, I want to smile as a shareholder, and I want you to explain to everyone how cap and trade with your exposure in the United States is good for shareholders compared to your competitors. And why, if you're an aggressive hedge fund, you wouldn't go long Exxon and short the hell out of Conoco.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, shareholders, you just heard a non-answer, okay? Okay, so let's hear it, right? This is exactly what's happening. And, if you sit silent, shareholders, we've seen CEOs go down. There is no reason why this company's not going to go down. Thank you.